Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sindra, and if you have big dreams of moving to the land of fjords and northern lights, Norway, in 2025, then you need to stop what you're doing and listen up. This isn't just another travel guide. This is the real, unfiltered truth about what it takes to start a life here. I made some absolutely huge, colossal mistakes when I first made the move. Mistakes that seriously cost me a ton of time, a significant amount of money, and a level of stress I wasn't prepared for. I'm talking about sleepless nights and moments where I questioned everything. And today I want to lay it all out on the table to help you avoid falling into those very same traps that almost derailed my entire Norwegian dream. I'm sharing this because I remember scrolling through countless videos that only showed the picture-perfect side of Norway. The stunning landscapes, the happy people, the incredible quality of life, and while all of that is true, what they don't show you are the hurdles, the bureaucratic nightmares, and the unexpected challenges that come with uprooting your life and planting it in a completely new country. My own journey was a roller coaster of emotions, filled with incredible highs, but also some really tough lows. I learned so much through trial and error, and now I want to pass that hard-earned knowledge on to you, to make your transition as smooth and successful as it possibly can be. Think of me as your guide who has already walked the path and can point out the pitfalls. This video is your essential pre-move checklist, a deep dive into the top 5 mistakes that newcomers consistently make when they arrive in Norway. We're going to cover everything from the shocking reality of the housing market to the unspoken rules of the job search, and even the cultural nuances that can leave you feeling isolated if you're not prepared. Each point we discuss today is based on my own personal experiences and the stories I've heard from so many other expats who have gone through the exact same struggles. So grab a coffee, get a notepad, and get ready to take some serious notes, because this information is pure gold for any aspiring Norway resident. And I really mean it when I say you need to watch this all the way through to the end. Every single tip is crucial, but I've saved the most critical one for last. Mistake number 5 is a beast, a financial trap that is so easy to fall into and so difficult to get out of. For me, it was a close call that almost cost me thousands upon thousands of dollars, a situation that could have sent me packing my bags and heading straight back home. I don't want that to happen to you, so stick with me and let's make sure your move to Norway in 2025 is a massive success story, not a cautionary tale. Let's get into it. One of the biggest shocks for newcomers to Norway is underestimating housing costs. The rental market moves fast with high prices and fierce competition, especially in cities like Oslo, where a small one-bedroom can cost over 12,000 kroner a month, plus a 3-month deposit up front. Landlords prefer tenants with local references and job contracts, making it tough for expats. Apartments are often smaller than you'd expect, and listings can be misleading. Start your search early. Research on fin.no, and prepare your finances for the deposit. Consider temporary or shared housing at first. With preparation and realistic expectations, you'll avoid the most common housing mistakes in Norway. Okay, let's move on to the second major mistake, and this one is a bit more subtle but just as important, assuming that you can get by everywhere in Norway with just English. Now, before you jump into the comments, let me be clear. Norwegians are, on the whole, absolutely fantastic English speakers. Their proficiency is consistently ranked among the highest in the world for non-native speakers. In the big cities like Oslo, Bergen, and Stavanger, you can absolutely handle your day-to-day life, ordering coffee, buying groceries, asking for directions, using only English. This high level of fluency can create a comfortable bubble, a false sense of security that makes you think learning Norwegian isn't really necessary. But this is a deceptive comfort, and relying on it is a trap. The reality of the language landscape in Norway is far more complex. While you can survive with English, you will never truly thrive. You will always be on the outside looking in, the social fabric of the country, the workplace banter, the cultural in-jokes, the deeper connections with people. All of that happens in Norwegian. By not learning the language, you are essentially closing the door to a huge part of the Norwegian experience. You're choosing to be a long-term tourist rather than an integrated member of the community, and that can lead to a profound sense of isolation over time. The real challenge begins the moment you step outside the metropolitan centers. The further you venture into the smaller towns and more rural areas, the less prevalent English becomes. While many people will still have a basic understanding, they may not be comfortable or confident enough to have a full conversation with you. Suddenly, simple tasks become incredibly difficult. Imagine trying to explain a specific issue to a plumber who only speaks Norwegian, or trying to understand the instructions from a local mechanic, or even just participating in a community event in a small village. These are the moments where your English-only bubble bursts and you realize how dependent you've become. I experienced this firsthand on a weekend trip to a small town in the mountains. I walked into the local matbutik, the grocery store, and had a simple question about a product. I asked the young cashier in English, and she just looked at me with a polite but blank stare before calling over an older colleague. We managed to communicate with a lot of pointing and gesturing, but I felt so awkward and honestly a little bit rude. It was my aha moment. I realized that by not even trying to speak the local language, I was placing the burden of communication entirely on them. It was a wake-up call that I needed to put in the effort if I truly wanted to call this country my home. My personal struggles with the language went far beyond that one moment in the grocery store. It was a series of small, cumulative experiences that really highlighted the necessity of learning Norwegian. I remember being at a social gathering, a vorspiel or pre-party with my Norwegian colleagues. Everyone was laughing and telling stories, the conversation flowing effortlessly in Norwegian. They were kind enough to switch to English whenever they spoke directly to me, but then the main conversation would naturally drift back to their native tongue. I found myself just sitting there, smiling and nodding, understanding nothing, feeling like a complete outsider at my own party. It was a deeply alienating feeling. Another major challenge was dealing with anything official. While many government websites have English versions, the official forms, the detailed letters, and the critical correspondence from places like the tax office or Skatteetaten or the immigration police, UDI, are almost always exclusively in Norwegian. I would receive these dense, multi-page documents filled with bureaucratic jargon that even Google Translate struggled with. The anxiety of not fully understanding a letter that could impact my legal status in the country was immense. It forced me to constantly ask for help, to rely on friends or colleagues to translate things for me, which made me feel dependent and frankly a bit incompetent. The language barrier also creates an invisible wall in everyday interactions. You miss out on the small pleasantries, the casual chit-chat with the bus driver, the friendly exchange with a neighbor in the hallway. These are the tiny threads that weave you into the social fabric of a place. Without the language, you can't participate in this subtle daily dance of community life. You become the quiet foreigner, the person who doesn't engage. It's not because you're unfriendly, but because you simply lack the tools to connect. This can be misinterpreted by locals, reinforcing the stereotype of the expat who lives in a bubble and makes no effort to integrate. One of the most frustrating moments for me was trying to follow the news and understand what was happening in the country I lived in. I could read international news sources about Norway, but I couldn't just turn on the TV and understand the evening news, or listen to the radio and get the local weather report, or pick up a newspaper and read about the political debates. I felt disconnected from the pulse of the nation. It was like living in a house, but not understanding what the people in the next room were talking about. Finding a job in Norway can be a real wake-up call. Even with great skills and experience, the most important requirement is often speaking Norwegian. Most workplaces, from meetings to coffee breaks, run in Norwegian, and many jobs require fluency. But don't get discouraged. Sectors like tech, oil and gas, and academia often use English, so target those. Use fin.no and nav.no to find jobs and adapt your CV to the Norwegian style. Networking is key. Genuine connections matter more than just sending out applications. My own breakthrough came from meeting someone at a local language cafe, not from a job board. So be honest about your language skills, focus your search and keep learning and adapting. That's how you'll succeed here. Norwegian bureaucracy is thorough, methodical and slow, so don't expect to have your life sorted in a week. Each step, from your residence permit to your D number and tax card, depends on the last, creating a chain of waiting. The process is digital, but that doesn't mean it's fast. You'll wait weeks, sometimes months, for approvals. Prepare for a marathon, not a sprint. Start paperwork early, keep organized digital and physical copies, and use only official government websites for info. And remember, you're not alone. Expat groups are a lifeline for advice and support. Be patient, stay organized, and connect with others on the same journey. Okay, let's talk about something that's just as challenging as the bureaucracy, but in a completely different way, the culture shock and the infamous Norwegian social code. You might arrive thinking that since everyone speaks English and loves the outdoors, making friends will be a breeze. But you'll quickly discover that Norwegian social culture is like a beautiful, serene fjord. It's deep, it's quiet, and it can be very, very hard to break the surface. People here are incredibly polite and helpful, but they are also quite reserved and private. This isn't rudeness, it's a cultural norm. Small talk with strangers at a bus stop or in a grocery line is not really a thing here. People tend to keep to themselves and their established social circles. For someone coming from a more extroverted, spontaneous culture, this can feel like hitting a social brick wall. You might smile at people and get a polite but brief nod in return. It can be easily misinterpreted as they don't like me, when in reality it's just a different way of respecting personal space and privacy. It takes time to understand and adapt to this. The concept of friendship is also different. In many cultures, you can meet someone and be friends within a few hours. In Norway, friendship is a much deeper, more earned title. It's built over time through shared activities and experiences. Norwegians are incredibly loyal and warm once you are in their inner circle, but getting there requires patience and effort. You can't just expect to be invited to a party after one conversation. The invitation will come, but it might be after you've joined the same hiking club and gone on 3 trips together. I remember my first few months feeling a bit like I was in a social bubble. I'd go to work, have pleasant conversations with my colleagues, and then everyone would pack up and go home to their own lives. There wasn't that spontaneous let's grab a drink after work culture I was used to. It felt isolating. I had to learn that the key to cracking the social code wasn't to be louder or more outgoing, but to be more intentional. I had to find a thing, an activity that would allow me to connect with people on a recurring basis. Now let's layer another challenge on top of the social quietness, the weather, and specifically the winter. The Norwegian winter is not just cold, it's dark. In many parts of the country, the sun disappears for months, a phenomenon known as the polar night. Even in southern cities like Oslo, the days are incredibly short, with the sun making a brief, low-hanging appearance for just a few hours. This lack of sunlight has a real physiological effect on your body and mind, something known as seasonal affective disorder or the winter blues. This darkness profoundly impacts social life. When it's dark and cold outside, the natural instinct is to stay home, get cozy, or kosalig, as the Norwegians say, and hibernate. The vibrant cafe terraces of summer disappear, the parks are empty. Spontaneous social gatherings become much rarer. People retreat into their homes and their close-knit groups. This can amplify feelings of loneliness, especially if you haven't established a strong social circle yet. The world outside feels quiet and empty, which can make your inner world feel the same way. I have a vivid memory of my first winter in Norway. It was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday in January, and it was already pitch black outside. I was looking out my window, and the silence of the snow-covered street felt deafening. I hadn't had a meaningful, non-work-related conversation in days. The initial excitement of moving had worn off, and I was hit with a wave of loneliness that was so intense it felt physical. I genuinely questioned my decision to move here. It was a tough, dark period, both literally and figuratively. Coping with this is a proactive battle. You can't just wait for it to pass. You have to actively fight the darkness. This means investing in good vitamin D supplements, which almost everyone in Norway takes. It means buying a sad lamp, a special light that mimics sunlight and can genuinely boost your mood. And most importantly, it means forcing yourself to go out and be social, even when every fiber of your being wants to stay on the couch. You have to make plans and stick to them, because if you don't, the winter can and will swallow you up. So you're facing the reserved culture and the dark winter. How do you actually break through and build a community? The answer is simple. You have to join something. You cannot wait for invitations to fall into your lap. You have to put yourself in situations where connections can happen naturally over a shared interest. Norwegians bond through activities. This is the golden rule of making friends here. Whether it's sports, a hobby, or a volunteer organization, structured activities are the gateway to the Norwegian social circle. Think about what you love to do or what you've always wanted to try. Do you like hiking? Join DNT, the Norwegian Trekking Association. They organize group hikes for all skill levels. Do you like singing? Find a local choir or corps. Almost every town has one. Are you into sports? Join a local football club, a climbing gym, or a ski group. The key is consistency. Seeing the same faces week after week at your chosen activity is how you move from being a stranger to a familiar face and eventually to a friend. One of the best resources for this is the concept of frivillighet, or volunteering. Norwegians have a strong culture of community involvement. Volunteering for a local festival, a charity, or an organization like the Red Cross is a fantastic way to meet people who are passionate and engaged. It gives you an immediate common purpose and a lot to talk about. Another amazing tool is the Språkcafé, or language cafe. These are informal gatherings where you can practice your Norwegian with locals who want to help. It's a relaxed, friendly environment, perfect for meeting people. Don't underestimate the power of digital tools either. While Norwegians might not be big on small talk in person, they are active online. Use apps like Meetup to find groups and events centered around your interests, from board games to tech talks. Check local Facebook groups for community events. I found my first real group of friends by joining a weekly board game night I saw advertised on Meetup. It was awkward at first, but showing up consistently was the key. It took time, but those game nights became the cornerstone of my social life and helped me through that first tough winter. I want to share a bit more about my own struggle because I think it's important to be honest about how hard it can be. After about 4 months in Norway, the loneliness was really getting to me. I was doing my job, exploring the city on my own, but I didn't have any real friends. I was calling my family back home more and more, and I felt a growing sense of regret. I saw pictures of my friends back home going out together, and I felt a pang of jealousy and isolation. It felt like I was living my life behind a pane of glass. The turning point for me was a conversation with a Norwegian colleague. I finally opened up a little and mentioned that I was finding it a bit quiet. He was incredibly understanding. He didn't offer a magical solution, but he said something that stuck with me. In Norway, we don't make friends at a party, we make friends on the mountain. He explained that shared struggle and shared experience is what builds bonds. He invited me to join his weekend hiking group. I was hesitant. I wasn't a big hiker, but I knew I had to say yes. That first hike was physically tough, but socially transformative. For hours, we were all focused on the shared goal of reaching the summit. The usual social pressure was gone. Conversation flowed naturally as we navigated the trail, shared snacks and admired the view. I wasn't an outsider, I was part of the team. I went back the next weekend and the weekend after that. Slowly, the people in that hiking group became my friends. They started inviting me to other things, a barbecue, a cabin trip, a birthday dinner. I had finally broken through the ice. This experience taught me that overcoming loneliness in Norway isn't about changing who you are. It's about understanding the local culture of connection and actively participating in it. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to try new things, and you have to be patient. It won't happen overnight. But if you make the effort to join the activities that form the bedrock of Norwegian social life, you will find your people. You will build those deep, meaningful friendships, and this beautiful, reserved country will finally start to feel like home. So there you have it, the top mistakes to avoid when you're thinking about making that big move to Norway. From the surprisingly high cost of housing and the nuances of the job market, to the slow-moving bureaucracy and the deep cultural challenges of loneliness and the winter blues. It might sound like a lot to handle, and honestly it is. Moving to Norway is not a simple walk in the park. It's more like a challenging multi-day trek up a stunning but demanding mountain. But the view from the top, absolutely worth it. This country offers a quality of life that is truly second to none, a connection to nature that will change your soul, and a safe, stable society to build a future in.